I'm back, better than ever. I'm back, better than ever.
Rayful Edmond III, the notorious figure once known as the King of Crack in Washington, D.C., has been released from prison. A video circulating on social media shows Edmond declaring that he is back better than ever, marking a new chapter for the man who once led one of the largest drug operations in U.S. history. During the 1980s, Edmond was a key player in the crack cocaine epidemic that swept through the nation's capital, transforming it into what was infamously dubbed the murder capital of the United States. His operation, in partnership with the Medellin cartel through the Blanco brothers, was said to have moved 2,000 kilos of cocaine a week in 1992. This enormous influx of drugs significantly fueled the city's crime rate, leaving a lasting impact on the community. Rayful Edmond's release has sparked mixed reactions. As the former drug lord steps back into the public eye, many are left wondering about the implications of his statement might mean for the city he once dominated. Rayful Edmond was born on November 26, 1964, in Washington, D.C., a city that in the 1980s became synonymous with the crack epidemic that swept through urban America. His life story is deeply intertwined with a narrative of crime, punishment, and transformation, offering a complex portrait of a man who was once one of the nation's most notorious drug traffickers. Edmond was raised in a Northeast Washington, D.C. neighborhood, primarily in the area around M Street. His upbringing was in an environment where drugs and violence were a common part of daily life, and where the temptations of the street were ever present. His mother, Constance Bootsie Perry, was known for her connection to the drug world, a factor that influenced Rayful's early exposure to drug trafficking. From an early age, Edmond displayed a charismatic personality and a sharp intellect, traits that would later aid his rise in the drug game. By the time he was in his late teens, Rayful had begun to establish himself as a significant figure in Washington's drug trade. He was particularly adept at networking with suppliers and dealers, and by the mid-1980s, he had built an expansive network that distributed cocaine throughout the capital. The transformation of cocaine into crack, a cheaper and more addictive form, saw Rayful's business explode. He was known for his business acumen, employing innovative strategies that multiplied his earnings and influence. At the height of his operations, it was estimated that Edmond was grossing over $2 million a week, controlling up to 60% of the D.C. narcotics market. Edmond's empire wasn't built alone. His initial connection with a Los Angeles-based supplier provided him with a steady flow of cocaine, which was a critical element in his rise. He later connected with the Medellin cartel, enhancing his supply chain's reliability and volume. This direct connection ensured that his operation could handle the growing demand for crack in the city. Edmond was also known for his lavish lifestyle and presence at various DC nightclubs, where he often mingled with celebrities and high-profile athletes. This visibility both elevated his status and eventually drew the attention of law enforcement agencies. The dramatic rise in violence and drug addiction in DC prompted a vigorous response from local and federal authorities. Edmond became a prime target of a joint task force dedicated to cracking down on drug trafficking. In 1989, at the age of 24, Rayful Edmond was arrested and charged with numerous counts of drug-related offenses. His trial was a significant media event, reflecting the widespread public interest in his case and the broader war on drugs. During the trial, it was revealed through various testimonies how extensive and brutal his network had been. Edmond was found guilty and sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. While in prison, Edmond's role in the drug trade didn't completely cease. He was implicated in continuing to manage drug operations from behind bars, which led to additional charges and another life sentence. However, in the late 1990s, Edmond began cooperating with federal authorities, providing information that led to the indictment and conviction of other drug traffickers. Edmond's cooperation with federal authorities marked a pivotal turn in his life and had significant implications on drug enforcement and criminal investigations. After receiving a life sentence without the possibility of parole, Edmond's circumstances within the prison system forced him to reconsider his legacy and the path he had chosen. Faced with the stark reality of spending the rest of his life behind bars, Edmond began to seek ways to reduce his sentence and make amends for his actions. The process began in the late 1990s, when Edmond approached authorities with an offer to provide information in exchange for a reduced sentence. Cooperation was driven by self-preservation and a reported genuine desire to atone for his past misdeeds. Federal authorities, aware of Edmond's deep knowledge and connections within the national and international drug trade, saw an opportunity to strike a blow to multiple drug trafficking operations. His cooperation with the Drug Enforcement Agency and other law enforcements was extensive. He provided critical insights into the inner workings of the Medellin cartel, with whom he had direct dealings during the height of his drug trafficking career. His testimony helped map out the connections between Colombian suppliers and U.S. distributors, shedding light on the methods used by cartels to smuggle large quantities of narcotics into the United States. Moreover, Edmond divulged information that led to the arrest and conviction of several high-profile drug traffickers within the United States. He identified key figures in the distribution network, outlined the logistics of drug transportation routes, and exposed the financial mechanisms used to launder drug money. His cooperation led to significant drug seizures and the dismantling of several major drug distribution cells across the country. Edmond's cooperation also extended to testifying in court cases, where his insider knowledge and first-hand accounts provided critical evidence that supported federal prosecutions. His willingness to testify against former associates and detail their involvement in drug trafficking provided a powerful tool for prosecutors. This role as a government witness further ensured that his cooperation was not only beneficial in terms of gathering intelligence, but also in securing convictions. Edmond's decision to cooperate did not come without personal risks. By agreeing to testify against former partners and cartels, he placed himself at significant risk of retaliation from those he implicated. This decision required increased security measures for him within the prison system and meant living with the constant threat to his safety. In interviews and communications, Edmond has expressed mixed emotions about his decision to cooperate. While it was initially driven by the desire to reduce his sentence, over time, he has framed his cooperation in terms of repentance and contributing to society by helping dismantle the very criminal enterprises he once helped operate. His cooperation with federal authorities reflects his complicated legacy, one that encompasses his reign as a drug lord and his subsequent role in aiding law enforcement. In recent years, Rayful Edmond's story has taken a turn toward reformation. While in prison, he has reportedly renounced his former life and participated in programs aimed at helping young people avoid the pitfalls of drug trafficking and violence. His cooperation with law enforcement has been viewed as a step toward redemption, and there have been discussions and court hearings regarding the reduction of his life sentences. The morning of July 31, 2024, dawned like any other in the high-security federal prison where Rayful Edmond had spent the last decades of his life. The guards moved along the corridors with routine efficiency, keys jangling quietly against the backdrop of subdued conversations. But for Rayful, this day held a secret promise, a turning point that was the culmination of years of cooperation, reflection, and legal battles, a day of possible freedom. The process began earlier in the year when Rayful's legal team, in collaboration with federal prosecutors, submitted a final plea for his sentence reduction. This plea was supported by a comprehensive portfolio of Rayful's cooperation with law enforcement, detailed accounts of dismantled drug rings, testimonies that led to the incarceration of major drug lords, and his engagement in programs that educated young inmates about the perils of drug trafficking. The motion also highlighted Rayful's personal growth, his participation in psychological therapy sessions, his mentoring of young prisoners, and his written contributions to anti-drug publications. This holistic view of Rayful's transformation was critical in swaying the court's opinion. With that, Rayful Edmond was granted a conditional release. Rayful Edmond remains a controversial figure, embodying both the profound challenges and the possible pathways to redemption that exist within the criminal justice system. His life story serves as a stark reminder of the socio-economic and human costs of drug trafficking and the crack epidemic in American cities. In Washington, D.C., his name is still associated with a period of unprecedented violence and despair, but also serves as a cautionary tale about the potential for change, even for those who once seemed irredeemable.
I'm back better than ever.
Hell yeah.
I'm back better than ever.